Уважаеми дами и господа министри, дами и господа посланници, скъпи гости, добре дошли на срещата на Виенския икономически форум. Мостът е една от най-добрите метафори за сътрудничеството в региона, който дори няма име. Защото Балкания е непълно, Югоизточна Европа също, и затова може би по-лесно и най-добре е да го наричаме регионът. И така в този регион Виенският икономически форум прави най-важното и най-същественото нещо – мостовете. Аз съм Бойко Василев и ще бъда модератор, водещ на тази среща. Това са последните думи, които ще кажа на български. Сега давам думата за откриване на посланник Елена KIRTCHEVA.
Was soll ich? Jetzt, okay. Excellencies, I repeat again, welcome to Vienna Economic Forum Sofia meeting 2024 today. Welcome to discuss with us today the very important topics, how to continue to build economic bridges during difficult times. Now I will switch to Bulgarian and please put on the headphones. Уважаеми госпожи и господа, участници в днешната среща на Виенския икономически форум София митинг 2024. На мен ми е чест и моя привилегия да открия днес третия поред в София митинг на Виенна Economic Forum. Първият беше през 2008 година, когато форумът още набираше сили и не беше в такъв мащаб на развитие и на признание. Вторият Виенна Economic Forum в София беше знаменателен. Той беше по времето на българското председателство на Съвета на Европа, Европейския съюз, през първата половина на 2018 година. И на този подиум, тогава, на Виенна Economic Forum, се провежда в НДК, на една маса седнаха всички премиер-министри на балканските държави и Сърбия и Косово заедно. Това за мен е знаменателно и то е показателно за това какво Виенна Economic Forum се опитва да прави. Да прави мостове и аз, господин модератор Василев, аз ще кажа, ние нарекохме този регион и 20 години го наричаме съзнателно региона от Адриатическото Черно море. Той не е географски регион, но ние го съчинихме и работим за това тая от Виена, със седалище в Виена, тая посока Go South, нашето мото, да направи икономическите мостове силни, да ги направи такива, че рядко да се счупат. Защото, аз обичам да цитирам един от нашите членове, политически мостове лесно се развалят, икономическите не толкова лесно. Аз съм с особено чувство днес на вълнение и вие ще ме разберете, като ви кажа, че след 2 дни, на 24 април, се навършват точно 20 години от учредяването на Виенна Economic Forum в Виена, съгласно австрийското законодателство. И да бъдем точно тук, на 20 годишнината на форума в София, за мен като българка е едно особено вълнение. За тези 20 години Виенна Economic Forum получи признати различни статути. Ние имаме статут на International Non-Governmental Organization, ние получихме специален консултативен статут към Икономически и социален съвет на Организацията на Обединените нации, ЕКОСОК. Виенна Economic Forum е вписан в транспарентния регистър на Европейския съюз и на Европейската комисия и аз се обръщам не случайно с поглед към госпожа Мария Габриел, защото българските комисари и комисарки, позволете да кажа в женски род, са тези, които от дълги години работех и продължават да работя с Виенна Economic Forum. И още нещо. На Виенна Economic Forum беше признато във Виена от австрийските власти правото да вее знамето на форума на сградата, където се намира нашия централен офис. Това в Австрия, предполагам и в други държави, е едно особено право. Така както веят посолствата знамената си, така и ние във Виена веем знамето гордо на Vienna Economic Forum. Тези статути носят на моя тим и на мен голямото удовлетворение, което радва всеки активен човек. Те са признания за свършена работа. Но добре свършената работа има значима стойност само тогава, когато е в полза на общото благо. Това е нашето убеждение в Vienna Economic Forum. Ние работим с ентусиазъм и се считаме и се гордеем, че работим за общото благо. Затова и моята голяма благодарност днес е към кооперационните ни партньори, към стратегическите ни партньори, към всички членове и поддръжници на Vienna Economic Forum, които, убедени в дългосрочната визия и целите на форума, правят възможна ежедневната ни работа през годините, чрез постоянната си и всестранна подкрепа. Благодаря ви, партньори, благодаря ви, членове на борда на Vienna Economic Forum. Благодаря на всички, които са в залата и които ни подкрепят дълги години. Обещавам ви още дълго да работим заедно. На това място специално искам да изкажа моята голяма благодарност на българските членове на Vienna Economic Forum. С голямата си и безапелационна подкрепа, и тук мога да посоча и Българска инвестиционна агенция, и Софарма, и къде е господин Пешов, и Главбулгарстрой, всичките наши, и фонда за подкрепа, гаранционен фонд, всички наши български членове в тая седмица, специално в тая седмица, позволете ми да кажа, в рамките на различни административни турбуленции, направиха възможна нашата среща тук. Позволете ми да бъда благодарен специално на госпожа Мария Габриел. Ние сме днес тук в тази прекрасна зала в резиденция Бояна, следствие на нейната официална покана през ноември 2023 година в качеството и по това време на заместник министър-председател и министър външните работи да направим нашия София митинг. Съвместната ни работа с госпожа Габриел не е обаче от ноември миналата година. Ние работим от дълги години с нея и аз съм горда да обявя това, което стои в програмата ни, че тя е носител на приза, партньор на годината на Vienna Economic Forum през 2020 година още. Аз ви благодаря специално, защото нашата работа ще продължи, надявам се, и в бъдеще. Вълнението иска глътка вода да взема. Последва решение на Министерския съвет на Република България и постановления. Те са публикувани в Държавен вестник и те бяха правната основа за нашата сериозна подготовка. Провеждането днес на Vienna Economic Forum София митинг тук в момента е още едно доказателство за това, че общите интереси на активните икономически субекти, ангажирани със сериозното желание за просперитет на региона, повтарям, от Адриатическото Черно море, работят. Мотото на Vienna Economic Forum "Икономиката е моторът" работи. Позволете ми да кажа, че по това мото и в продължение на 20 години Vienna Economic Forum се радва и на една уникална структура. Министър-председателите на нашите 13 държави членки са почетни патрони на Vienna Economic Forum. Тяхното участие ад функционам, не ад персонам, това означава всеки, който е избран в момента действащ министър-председател, е патрон на Vienna Economic Forum. Ние ще имаме днес честа по-късно да поздравим нашия патрон, негово превъзходителство Албин Курти, който е премиерът на Косово и който в момента е на среща с българския премиер-министър. Темата на днешната ни софийска среща е "Продължаваме да строим икономически мостове в тежки времена". Тук сме днес, за да дискутираме може ли икономиката да продължи да бъде движеща сила в трудни и несигурни времена. Какъв е начинът да осигурим регионално икономическо развитие в една несигурна среда? Как да се справим с предизвикателствата под натиска на реалността? Реалността на една недопустима от международното право война на агресор на нашия европейския континент и то в страна членка на Vienna Economic Forum Украйна. Трябва ли да останем верни на основополагащите цели на Vienna Economic Forum? Да продължим да следваме инкорпорираната в идеята на създаването на Vienna Economic Forum визия. Визията за изграждане на обща икономическа зона от Адриатическото Черно море. Способни ли сме да го направим? Моя отговор, убеден отговор е да, способни сме. И тази ми убеденост се подкрепя от участието на всички вас днес тук, в тази достолепна зала на резиденция Бояна. Една немска поговорка казва: Wo ein Wille, da ein Weg. Там, където има воля, там има път. Т.е. там има начин за осъществяването й. Доказаността на истинността на тази поговорка през вековете ме кара да съм убедена в движещия мотив за работата ни във ВЕФ. Там, където има воля, има път. И ние сме готови да работим за това. С активното сътрудничество на всички партньори и членове, Виенският икономически форум продължава да се доказва като европейската икономическа платформа, базирана във Виена, където се срещат визионери. Аз желая на всички нас днес един интересен форум с активни дискусии, иновативни предложения и полезни контакти. Благодаря ви.
Thank you, and good morning from my side. Please allow me to sit. I have a problem with my knee at the moment. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I welcome you also on behalf of this Vienna Economic Forum in my function as new president of the forum. But it's not something new for me. I've been working with the forum from the very beginning with my good friend Erhard Busek and Wolfgang Schüssel, who were the founders of the forum. There were many Viennese and Austrians among the founders, and the reason was very obvious. Austria had the strong feeling that this region deserves attention, economic attention and political attention. The political attention, as we all know, has become very tedious and it takes a long time to really integrate this region. The economic one is a different story. And I think the Vienna Economic Forum has proven that it needs a platform where this can be discussed, also beyond only talking about the Western Balkan countries. And this is one of the big advantages of the Vienna Economic Forum. But let me say, if there is such a forum, I always felt one should only support it if it's useful. And I had always the feeling the Vienna Economic Forum is useful for politics and for business on both sides, simply because it does not try to go into politicization of issues. It does not go into the facts of, well, where do we go in economic policy? It's not economic policy making, it's about real business and the economic exchange. This does not work, as we all know, and I'm happy to say so. This will be also to our today's discussion. This does include also issues like where do we together in Europe go to in the economy? And there are two issues. When you followed possibly, and I would like to mention this here, last week's special European Council, there were two issues which were discussed in the field of the economy, besides Ukraine and besides Gaza. One of those issues was competitiveness. Europe needs to be the most competitive area of this globe, actually. And this includes working not only within the European Union, very difficult, as we know, because we all would like to be competitive, but we don't like that the neighbor is competitive. I'm sorry, I'm sort of stressing it possibly too much. And the second one is the internal market has to be fulfilled. Otherwise, we, Bulgaria, all those member countries who are already in the European Union and those aspiring will not be successful. We have to finish the internal market, and this includes also those countries which are not yet members. That includes also this what we call, at least in Austria, gradual integration into the European Union. In order to do this, we need these sort of platforms. That's my strong feeling, and that's why I'm committed to this, because it needs the infrastructure. It needs really the reindustrialization of parts of this continent. And if it's not this region, Where else could it be done? We know where the problems, where the big problems are, and allow me to say one political sentence. I'm convinced that the future of our continent lies in this region, which doesn't even have a name. This is the region really between the Adriatic Sea and the Black Sea. If we are successful in the economic world, then I'm sure the political influence also of this region will be what it should be, because this is not part of second-class Europe that we are in at this moment. This is first-class Europe, and we have the work, I think, that we do as a forum, and we all can do in business and politics, prove that this is the case. I hope this day is another chance to discuss these issues, and I wish us all a very interesting and fruitful meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Now we will have a greeting address of the Prime Minister of Bulgaria, Dimitar GLAVCHEV, and I will be the one who will read it. Dear Dr. BRIX, dear Dr. KIRTCHEVA, ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to welcome you to Bulgaria, which is the host of the meeting of the Vienna Economic Forum this year. The forum has a special role that provides an opportunity to strengthen economic relations and a leading role in finding solutions to meet global and regional challenges. The initiative is a bridge between economics and politics. In addition to the support for the countries that aspire accession to the European Union and to the Euro-Atlantic community, the forum is a place to identify new markets and investment in joint projects and to achieve common goals at government and business level. We are facing a number of challenges and crises, the consequences of the pandemics and the capsulation of the world, followed by armed conflicts and recession of the economy. This impacts both the economy of each country and the businesses. The Vienna Economic Forum affords precisely this opportunity to meet the challenges by the promotion of economic cooperation in the region of Southeast Europe. The problems in the infrastructure, logistics, disrupted supply chains and elsewhere have negative impacts on the economics of all the countries in the region. What are we to do to ensure economic progress and stability that will guarantee a decent life for our citizens? Full membership in regional and international organizations would enable this to materialize. It is precisely for this reason that it is the appropriate place to state that Bulgaria's full accession to the Schengen area will make a significant contribution and will have a positive effect on the provision of services, the supply of goods and the cross-border mobility of workers, not just for Bulgaria, but also for a number of other countries. To the board of the Vienna Economic Forum, Bulgaria's full OECD membership is the country's other key priority, as it is to promote economic development and to strengthen regional stability. It is a priority for Bulgaria to speed up the process of stabilization and the association to the EU with the countries of the Western Balkans. To that effect, it is of essential importance to utilize the full potential of the bilateral agreements which each of the Western Balkan partners. This will guarantee the economic development and political stability of and assistance to these countries. Our efforts should also focus on active cooperation to build the infrastructure that is now absent and to ensure better connectivity, security of energy independence, development of digital technologies and innovations. In this context, our country is a proof of stability and security in the region. We will continue to work actively with our neighbors to develop transport, energy, and digital connections. Our highly educated and skilled workforce, long-standing traditions in science and education, and the business-friendly environment make our country a viable and promising partner in the promotion of Europe's competitiveness. I wish every success to all participants in the forum as they seek to find sustainable solutions to promote regional cooperation. Thank you, Dimitar GLAVCHEV, Prime Minister of Bulgaria. And now, a greeting words from Dr. Akkan, President of Marmara Group Foundation, Türkiye, strategic partner of the forum. Not here at the moment. Okay, we go directly to the impulse statement. Mariya GABRIEL is a long-standing supporter of Vienna Economic Forum. She is a recipient of the annual award Partner of the Year for 2020. Mariya GABRIEL, please.
Благодаря много. Ваше превъзходителство, посланник Кирчева, уважаеми господин министър, Ваши превъзходителства, уважаеми членове на борда на Виенския икономически форум, скъпи приятели на Виенския икономически форум, скъпи гости. За мен е удоволствие и аз да ви приветствам с добре дошли и да изразя радостта си за това, че престижният Виенски икономически форум днес се провежда именно тук, в София, столицата на България. Виенски икономически форум се превърна в традиция. Традиция в не само икономическия, но и политически и обществен живот. Не само в Австрия, но и в Европа. През изминалите 2 десетилетия, посланник Кирчева, вие го казате, форумът имаше наистина водеща роля в насърчаването на икономическото сътрудничество и диалога в сърцето на Европа. И недвусмислено доказа, че страните в региона имат нужда от Европа, но и Европа има нужда от нашия регион. През годините искам и аз да споделя в различни институционални и обществени роли. Имах удоволствието неколкократно да участвам в този форум. Свидетел съм на начина, по който той се разви и разрасна. И в края на миналата година, през ноември 23-та година, бях част от юбилейното издание на форума. Тогава отбелязахме 20 години от това, което аз бих нарекла едно дълго, но успешно пътуване. Пътуване, през което форумът успя да се утвърди като платформа за визионери, които обменят идеи, създават партньорства и заедно търсят решения на предизвикателствата на нашето време. За това време, междувременно вярвам, че ние разбрахме, че връзките между нашите страни не се основават само на икономическите интереси, а най-вече на споделените демократични ценности, които са и в сърцето на Виенския икономически форум. Ние защитаваме ценностите на демокрацията, правовата държава, свободата, подкрепяме силна и обединена Европа, която задава посоката и предоставя решения на предизвикателствата, пред които сме изправени. Ето защо съм съпричастна с форума и ще остана, вярвам, верен съмишленик в преследването на неговите каузи. Като моята подкрепа не е само заради значимостта на Виенския икономически форум, но и заради уважението, което изпитвам към посланник Кирчева, без чиято нестихваща енергия, бих казала, ентусиазъм и посветеност, успехът на Виенския икономически форум би бил немислим. Благодаря ви, посланник Кирчева. Дами и господа, през последните години светът се промени по безпрецедентен начин, което наложи приемането на амбициозни мерки в отговор на новите предизвикателства. Регионът, не бих казала на Югоизточна Европа, разбрахме сме, че ще кажем регионът от Адриатическо до Черно море, подобно на Европа като цяло, бе изправен пред множество сложни политически и геоикономически предизвикателства. Последиците от пандемията COVID, агресията на Русия срещу Украйна, ескалиращия конфликт в Близкия изток дестабилизираха немалко демократичните устои на нашите общества и поставиха сериозни предизвикателства пред развитието на световната икономика. Войната срещу Украйна на практика сложи край на близо 80 години мир в Европа. Ние остро осъдихме руската агресия и подкрепихме Украйна чрез всички възможни канали – политически, дипломатически, хуманитарни и военни. Вярвам, че всички заедно ще продължим да подкрепяме Украйна. Също така трябва да сме наясно, че случващото се в Близкия изток е изключително обезпокоително. Ние трябва да работим за това да се предотврати регионалната ескалация и да адресираме хуманитарните нужди на населението в ивицата Газа. Защото рисковете, които съпътстват тези военни конфликти, имат своето отражение не само върху пряко засегнатите страни, но и върху нас, върху целия Европейски съюз, върху глобалната сигурност и икономика. От една страна, те са свързани с сигурността на веригата на доставки, на суровини, енергетиката, търговския обмен. От друга, те имат ценностно измерение. Гарантирането на международен ред, основан на правила, зачитането на суверенитета и правото на народите да се самоопределят е нещо, което е фундаментално за нас и от което не трябва да отстъпваме. Ето защо не може да бъдем пасивни. И аз се радвам, че това е и посланието, което изпраща Виенския икономически форум. Ние трябва да бъдем активни и трябва да останем единни. Ето защо вярвам, че първата тема, с която бих искал да започна, разбира се, съюз и подкрепата за Западните Балкани. Европейската интеграция на региона е изключително важна и вярвам, че в последните месеци няколко от приетите решения, включително и на европейско ниво, създават за нас моментум. В края сме на институционален цикъл, началото на нова Европейска комисия. Вярвам, че всички заедно можем да превърнем амбицията в полза за гражданите. Включително и последното решение, което беше прието за Западните Балкани с инвестициите от 6 милиарда, са нещо, от което ние трябва да се възползваме. Ето едно предизвикателство. В рамките на приетия пакет, кои са приоритетните проекти между страните от Западните Балкани и страните членове на Виенския икономически форум? Можем ли да идентифицираме тези 2-3 проекта? Говорим за инфраструктура, за свързаност, които биха могли да имат реално добавена стойност. Вярвам, че това е нещо, което можем и трябва да реализираме заедно. В този контекст също би ми се искало да говорим за общи приоритети на региона. Тук ще отворя само една скоба за приоритет, който е и на България, но и на Румъния. Това е влизането в Шенген с сухопътните граници като следваща стъпка. Искам да изразя специално благодарността си на Виенския икономически форум, на всички членове в него, защото с много диалог и сътрудничество отбелязахме тази изключително важна крачка напред. Но точно защото си говорим за икономическо сътрудничество и за полза за икономиката, вярвам, че трябва да продължим и да направим така, че да бъде премахната и пречката сухопътни граници, защото това означава много повече възможности за икономическо сътрудничество и за бизнеса. И тези приоритети не са само за България и Румъния. Те са за целия регион. В тази връзка обаче трябва да кажа, че ние имаме и много общи такива. Стабилизация на публични финанси, справяне с инфлацията, насърчаването на икономическия растеж и това, което вече бях откроила като ключова дума, а именно свързаност. Свързаност в нейните многобройни измерения – инфраструктурна, енергийна, икономическа, дигитална. Ще си говорим за свързаност в областта на новите технологии. Междувременно от значение са инвестициите в образование, научни изследвания, културата, инвестициите в младите хора в региона. Изключително съм радостна, че днешната втора част на форума ще обърне още повече сериозно внимание, но давайки наистина и перспектива за развитие върху тези теми. Разбира се, аз ще се върна от Адриатическо до Черно море. И бих искала да обърна внимание на няколко примера за конкретни инициативи от последните месеци, които чрез Виенски икономически форум можем да изведем до следващ етап. Вече сте свикнали да ме чувате, че говоря за стратегическата важност на Черно море. Но вярвам, че много ясно видяхме с войната срещу Украйна, че сигурността, мира и просперитета в този регион не може да се приема за даденост. Затова и трябва да работим за още по-добре свързан Черноморски регион. Той да бъде регион свободен от заплахи за териториална цялост, от икономическа принуда и злонамерено влияние. Ето защо тук е важно с нашите не само съседни страни, но и партньори, които са и членове на Виенски икономически форум, да говорим все повече и повече за общи инициативи. Такава инициатива беше инициативата между Турция, България и Румъния с противоминната група. Би ми се искало да говорим повече за коридор 8. От години той чака своята реализация. Би ми се искало да говорим повече за общата декларация, която приехме по време на 78-та сесия на ООН в Ню Йорк, България, Румъния, Гърция и Хърватия. Там ние ясно казахме, че искаме да засилим своето сътрудничество, така че да укрепим сигурността в региона и да мобилизираме инвестиции за важни инфраструктурни проекти. 4-те държави ясно изразихме подкрепата си за инициативата Три морета, изграждането на коридор Север-Юг, свързването на транспортната инфраструктура и диверсифицирането на енергийните източници. Много би ми се искало да има повече общи проекти между страните от региона в рамките на тези инициативи. Винаги се изненадвам от това, че в инициатива като Трите морета има по-малко общи инициативи между България и държавите от Западните Балкани, които са членове, а приветствахме миналата година и Гърция, отколкото други, които нямат дори толкова голяма нужда, но са активни, с диалог, с сътрудничество, успяват наистина да изведат на преден план своите приоритети. И тук няма как да подмина и аз темата за енергийната сигурност. Факт е, че това е едно от големите предизвикателства, пред които са изправени икономиките на Централна, Източна, Югоизточна Европа в целия регион. И тук вярвам, че усилията на България за диверсификация на източниците и маршрутите за енергийно снабдяване допринасят за регионална енергийна свързаност на Югоизточна Европа. Изключително важно е тук изграждането на връзките с наши съседни страни. И не би ми се искало само да цитирам Гърция. Бих искала да видя развитие и на проекти, които ще позволят на региона да се чувства енергийно сигурен. Няма как да подмина и другата тема, която ми е изключително близка на сърцето, а именно инвестициите в иновации и цифрови технологии. Вярвам, че конкурентно способна Европа може да бъде постигната, като тя използва своя иновационен потенциал. Особено за държави като нашите от региона, където имаме таланти, където имаме компании, които дават решения на предизвикателства, които до този момент в стария тип икономика не сме могли да изведем на преден план. Искрено вярвам, че има изключително голям потенциал. Но тук отново бих искала да видя по-конкретни инициативи. Във всяка една от държавите, които са във Виенски икономически форум от региона, има дигитален иновационен хъб, има дигитални иновационни хъбове. Би ми се искало те да работят в мрежа, би ми се искало те да работят заедно. Така че там, където може от стартъп да направим еднорог, да го направим, защото той ще бъде еднорог за региона, а не защото ще гледаме на другия да не е толкова конкурентно способен, колкото ние. И съм сигурна, че има и няколко други инструменти, които можем да използваме. Ще ви изненадам, може би, но би ми се искал да използваме по-добре мрежите от градове. Те са също ефективно средство за обединение на усилията по конкретни въпроси. И тук искам да дам пример с мрежата B40. Тя обединява 55 града, които се стремят да постигнат общи цели в сферата на борбата с изменението в климата, миграционните потоци, икономическите предизвикателства. Трябва за мен наистина повече да се възползваме от този инструмент, още повече, че София ще поеме през 2026 година председателството от Сараево. Ние почти никога не говорим за тази мрежа, за добрите практики и проекти, които тя има. Сигурна съм, че там има потенциал, който може да се развие. По същия начин би ми се искал да видя и повече партньорства в областта на регионалните иновационни долини. Прекрасен пример е Варна и Клуж-Напока, но би ми се искало то да е и с други държави, с държавите от Западните Балкани, с страните, които са членки на Виенския економически форум. Накрая, посланик БРИКС, вие казахте, че е имало втора важна тема по време на срещата на върха на съвета. Това беше доклада на Енрико Лета, който всички чакахме, за да ясно да стане, че единният пазар не е технически въпрос, не е икономически въпрос. Той е и политически приоритет. И аз бих искала наистина да използваме момента след публикуването на този доклад, за да видим като регион как можем да използваме част от изключително добрите идеи в него. Една от идеите, и не случайно го казвам тук, защото идва веднага след говоренето ми за иновации, за образование, за технологии, и за мен е изключително удовлетворяващо да го видя, е, че в този доклад на Енрико Лета се предлага в Европейския съюз да има пета свобода. Бяхме свикнали с свободата на движение, на стоки, капитали, хора. Петата свобода е свободата на достъп до образование, иновации и научни изследвания. Сигурна съм, че това за региона е още една много голяма възможност. По същия начин в този доклад има изключително добри идеи за разширяването на Европейския съюз. Аз бих искала партньорите ни от Западните Балкани да ни кажат как те биха искали това да се случи. Защото когато си говорим за разширяване на Европейския съюз, на мен би ми се искало да се сложи край на така наречения топ-даун approach. Видяхме, че той просто не работи през всичките тези години и имаме нужда от подход, който да носи полза на хората, те да го усещат и да не се губим в процес, в който си говорим за преговорни глави, които почти никой не следва за какво става дума, а междувременно губим хората, които всеки ден, чрез икономиката, чрез ролята им в обществото, в ролята в региона, по отделните проекти, носят добавена стойност. Уважаеми дами и господа, скъпи приятели, вярвам, че от казаното до момента можем да направим заключението, че сме изминали дълъг път заедно, но и сме изправени пред много предизвикателства. Но това, което остана безусловно през тези дълги години, беше твърдата подкрепа на Виенския економически форум, инициативата, която стимулира диалога между нас, да се справим по-добре с регионалните въпроси, да създадем условия за привличане на инвестиции за смислени цели и ни научи да се вслушваме повече един в друг. За мен е чест, че форумът избра точно София за тази своя среща, за насърчаване на регионалното сътрудничество и развитие на региона. Очакванията на гражданите ни са високи, но и основателни. Нека всеки от нас в рамките на своята компетентност и възможности да допринесе за тяхното постигане. Нека заедно продължаваме да подобряваме координацията и последователността в усилията ни. Благодаря ви за вашия принос и отдаденост. Благодаря.
And we thank you very much for this inspiring statement, Mrs. Gabriel. Now, Mr. Akkan is here. As I said, he is the president of the Marmara Foundation, Türkiye. Please.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is a great honor to be here today at the Sofia meeting of the Vienna Economic Forum. On behalf of myself and my colleagues, I would like to take this opportunity to thank the Secretary General Ambassador, Dr. Elena KIRTCHEVA, and the Director Ambassador Dr. Emil BRIX for their invitation. I would also like to express my special thanks to the State of Bulgaria for bringing us together. I have always said that Vienna Economic Forum is a bridge of peace and cooperation. Vienna Economic Forum is a free platform that guides and pioneers the establishment of cooperation between the Balkan geography and Europe. It is a free platform. Taking the opportunity of this meeting, I have to say that the Balkans, which include my country, Türkiye, it is a large hinterland. Balkans are a commercial and cultural center. Therefore, Balkan is a permanent term. Nowadays, we are witnessing the discourse of some people to change this beautiful term to Southeast Europe. First of all, I would like to say that it is not practical to express a single word with three words. Southeast Europe, according to whom? Not according to me. If the intention is to consider Türkiye outside the Balkan geography, this is also wrong. Türkiye's population in Europe is 12 million. Again, Turks came to Anatolia from the Balkans. How accurate is it to consider a population of 12 million whose culture, tradition, and history are intertwined with the Balkans as outside the Balkans? Therefore, it's wrong to change their name. There is no end to it. Just like changing the name of Macedonia, no one has any intention to change the political geography. But what difference does it make if it is south or north? In this case, what is necessity for this? As science and people of culture, we have to pay attention to this. We do not have to accept and obey change in political geography. As long as we obey the truths, politicians and diplomats are obliged to follow them. We cannot thank the Vienna Economic Forum enough for its services in implementing and realizing these truths. Therefore, taking the opportunity of the Sofia meeting of the Vienna Economic Forum, I wanted to share my views as an intellectual with your delegation. Once again, I would like to thank Ambassador Dr. Elena KIRTCHEVA for bringing us together. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Thank you for coming. Thank you for coming also.
Thank you, Mr. Souver. Now I give the floor to Artane RIZVANOLLI. She is Minister of Economy of Kosovo.
dear Ambassador KIRTCHEVA, dear Minister NIKOLOV, ministers and deputy ministers, dear board members of Vienna Economic Forum, members and friends. I'm very happy to be here today in Sofia for the second time as a Minister of Economy of Republic of Kosovo, and again to experience a warm welcome and desire to advance economic cooperation. This is no doubt a reflection of our exceptional bilateral relations between Kosovo and Bulgaria, but also a testament of the role of the Vienna Economic Forum in fostering cooperation among member countries. In the 20 years of the Vienna Economic Forum, the significance of the motto, "Economy meet politics," has never been greater than today. The energy crisis, followed and exacerbated by the Russian aggression against Ukraine, and the escalation of tensions in the Middle East have been a stark reminder that, yes, trade and economic ties are a strong driver of cooperation and prosperity globally, but they do not happen in a vacuum, as much as we economists would like to think sometimes. From the price of and supply of oil and gas, to grain production, microchips and semiconductors, to disruptions on international shipping on the Red Sea, we have been reminded time and time again that the economy and geopolitics are closely intertwined, for good or for bad. However, just because economic interdependence exposes our vulnerabilities, it does not mean that we must avoid cooperation. On the contrary, it means that we must strengthen cooperation, but economic cooperation, while driven by economic interests, must also be underpinned by common values and goals. In many ways, the challenges and opportunities of the energy sector are a perfect illustration of the tension between economic cooperation and political complexities, between short-term gains and long-term competitiveness and sustainability of our countries. In the spirit of cross-country collaboration towards a joint goal and greater good of fighting climate change, Kosovo has also adopted a highly ambitious energy strategy, although in terms of coal reserves, we are ranked third in Europe and fifth in the world. 3 weeks ago, we successfully concluded our first auction for 100 megawatt solar park. We received 6 bids from reputable companies from Germany, France, Turkey, Egypt, and Switzerland, of which 5 were qualified and bid in a reverse auction in a fully transparent electronic process, resulting in a price of 48.8 euros per megawatt hour. Competition driving the price down 35% compared to the ceiling price of the 35 euro we started with. This was a textbook example of how competition leads to better outcomes for consumers. However, this seemingly invisible hand result would have been impossible without trust in institutions and without well-functioning of democratic institutions, which led to a fair and transparent competitive process, a testament of the improvements across international indices on democracy and fight against corruption that Kosovo has seen in recent years. In a regional context, politics and energy cooperation seem to be in a constant state of tension between the future that we aspire and the past and the present that seem to get in the way of this sometimes. Regional market integration is key for all of us to integrate all these renewable energies successfully and optimize them across the region. In Kosovo, we have built a transmission infrastructure that allows this, with net transfer capacities well beyond what the EU has set itself for 2030. As of the 1st of March 2024, we have launched ALPEX, the Albanian power exchange between Kosovo and Albania, in a coupled market, which we aim to couple next with North Macedonia and Greece, as per MOUs already signed last year. Preceding this, back in December 22, at the Energy Community Ministerial Council, we adopted an important set of decisions paving the way for regional market integration. Now, Serbia wants to back down and propose an alternative, which entails effectively splitting the region into 2 markets, while it continues to refuse simple trade through interconnection lines with Kosovo, causing congestion and higher prices, and a net welfare loss of between 12 and 15 million euros to themselves, to us, and others in the region. Needless to say, politics and economics here are at odds with each other, but they are definitely intertwined again. While this is a challenge that we will persistently work to address, the future doesn't wait. Building on the success of our first solar auction, we are moving forward with our first wind auction for a capacity of 100 megawatts this fall, which will include a PPP component with a government contribution in equity as a minority shareholder. Our expectation is that this lowers the risk for the developer and gives public ownership to part of the energy produced so that we are better prepared in case of crises such as the ones we experienced in recent years and hope we'll never experience again. Our policies, the recent crisis has shown, must ensure that when the market fails due to geopolitical threats or otherwise, we need to have more mechanisms of protecting our citizens. As we prepare to launch our wind auction, a first in a line of investments that will cumulatively amount to 600 megawatts of new wind capacities by 2031, we are very aware of the choices that we have to make at this crucial time for the wind industry, and not only for the wind industry in Europe. Once again, politics and the economy are intertwined as Europe has to bring difficult but hopefully swift decisions on how it will address the growing pressure from state-subsidized Chinese turbines similar to solar panels before that and electric vehicles currently. In the case of the Critical Raw Materials Act, the EU has shown that it recognizes the importance of not allowing value chain dependencies that may replicate the effects of the fossil fuel dependency that we have experienced and that has caused so much suffering over the last years. In the case of the energy crisis and in the case of Ukraine, the EU has shown that it can respond quickly in decisive moments. And in the case of the growth plan, it has demonstrated its commitment to integrate and not to forget the Western Balkans. For us as non-members, it's extremely important that we have a seat at the table when policies are deliberated and for these policies to take into consideration the consequences and opportunities they entail for us, and this in the interest of better outcomes for all of us, the EU and the non-members. This is very much in line and resonates with what Ms. Mariya GABRIEL said earlier about enlargement being not a top-down, but a bottom-up issue in which all of our voices must be heard and the interests of our people should be taken into account, as well as the immediate impacts. Maintaining and strengthening competitiveness of European industries, modernizing and digitalizing European industries is key and is going to be key for the socio-economic situation of our people and for the security of our continent in the future. Building new resilient supply chains with geographical proximity and underpinned by strong alliances is crucial, which is why fora such as the Vienna Economic Forum are so important. Kosovo will continue to work actively and contribute to further economic integration in the region and with the EU. With a young and skilled workforce, increasingly interconnected by roads and railways, with 100% coverage of the country with broadband internet, one of the top countries in Europe, currently developing interoperable electronic EID systems and digital wallet, Kosovo can and will continue to contribute to this vision of a democratic, integrated European economy based on shared values. I want to thank you for inviting me here today, and I want to wish you pleasant discussions and productive discussions here at Vienna Economic Forum, which is a forum that perfectly embodies this vision that I was talking about. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Minister Dr. RIZVANOLLI, for this regional perspective from the Western Balkans and actually from Pristina. Now we go further north to Vienna, to Magister Peter Höfinger, who is the Deputy General Manager and Deputy Chairman of the Board of Vienna Insurance Group. Please.
Dear distinguished guests, also a very warm welcome from my side. We do not go further to Vienna. I am spending more time of my working time in Central Eastern Europe than in Vienna. Yeah. I think important is, and I will make some observation, I will do some spots of a businessman, of an investor, and maybe sometimes a little bit provocative. I will focus more what is difficult times. I think the bridge we should, as the region, we should cross the bridge self-confident but united to Europe. We are talking always about difficult times, and also with my colleagues in the countries, we are representing in all the countries in Central Eastern Europe, Southeast Europe, with insurance companies, different discussions. One topic is clearly the geopolitical development, which is in the end bringing the world more to a multipolar world with some consequences. The phenomenon of inflation, which we see since some years, technological development, artificial intelligence, demography, and national politics. If I look to the geopolitical developments and the direction going to a multipolar world, different than maybe some years ago with the topics of globalization, I think we will see in future the revival of taxes of imported goods from China to the US, from the South countries, and Poles will try to protect their own environment with taxes, which will have a consequence on Europe and which will have a consequence on Central Eastern Europe. Besides the topic of taxes, this multipolar world had also consequences. Look on the topics of Suez Canal very recently, where there were attacks on ships which were needed, then a redirection of many of the ships, which were delays in supply for some weeks, but even more important was significantly increasing prices of goods coming from the Asian region to Europe. One learning was also COVID, where in the end the Shanghai airport was closed for many, many weeks, and we all had to realize that obviously we in Europe for very important products are not anymore able to have them if they are not coming from China, and this is more in the pharmaceutical industry like aspirin. It's a pity that we are not producing aspirin in an enough amount in Europe. There have been programs. We have to make sure that important elements within the supply chain is in Europe, and what now the CEOs and the CFOs of our customer, of the manufacturing sites companies are all talking is about robustness of supply chain. Robustness of supply chain is that you can rely on a timely, predictable cost element for your supply. And in the end, this means that most probably if you look on transportation, it should be on the same continent. So these people say lorry distances, whatever exactly this means. But it's also, again, that people are more assessing closeness of culture, where production site is, and educational level where we are. So I am expecting, and I think we are seeing first rebound of foreign direct investment of Western European companies from the Eurozone, which partly are rebuilding their supply of relevant topics. And if they are not done purely by robotics, but where labor cost is one of the relevance element, they will have a very clear look to Central Eastern Europe, to our region, for also having the benefit of lower production costs. One example of this kind of development was Brexit. Brexit had one big advantage for Poland and the Baltic states. Suddenly, with changes of law in the UK and different perspective of the future, many of very motivated, engaged, educated people from Poland working in England, people from Baltics working in England, moved back to this country, so the train was going back and was allowing a decent push support in the development of these two countries due to a political decision with Brexit. If I come to another element which is normally assumed under the topic of difficult times, this is inflation. Inflation, which is a phenomenon which is now more or less also here globally. Also here one has to differentiate, I think the last time, inflation in this amount as we have seen the last year, the last 3 years for Germany, for France, this was the first time in 50 years that they had to tackle with this phenomenon. They did have people in the workforce, in the management, which had already a time where they had to deal with the phenomenon of inflation, high inflation and maybe even hyperinflation. If you look to our region in the last 30 years, in more or less each and every country, we had already the topics of inflation and hyperinflation. We have in our workforce and our management staff in Central Eastern Europe people who are able to deal with it, who managed it, which was not totally new. And I personally was very much also experiencing this. I'm in our group, Vienna Insurance Group. I'm also responsible for reinsurance. Reinsurance companies have been very critical to all the primary insurance companies, how they will deal with inflation. We just told them, look, we are in Central Eastern Europe. We feel pity for you as a German reinsurance company, having nobody in your management, being able to deal with it. We are convinced we can. In the end, we have proved it. We have good results. If you look on certain results in Germany, motor market is heavily in the red the last year due to the fact that the German insurance companies were not able to appropriately fixing in our business model the topic of claims inflation. We come to salary inflation, which is now the big topic all over the place. Also here I would have a separation between salary inflation in Central Eastern Europe and in Western Europe. One hand side is due to the level of salaries, therefore the lower disposable income which we have here in CEE. Salary inflation is at the same time an immediate push and input to consumption, local consumption, and is pushing GDP in the countries. This is different if there are significant salaries increases, again in Germany or in France, where the disposable income is on a higher level, and all the effect of salary inflation is not immediately supporting the economy, and therefore also the forecast for GDP. If you compare here Eurozone with our region, our zone has more than a double higher forecast in GDP than maybe the Eurozone has it. There's always a fear salary inflation could reduce competitiveness. Yes, relatively speaking, yes, this is more or less a global phenomenon. I think there will be not an absolute reduction of competitiveness of Central Eastern Europe due to this effect. The certain topic is technological development and artificial intelligence as a buzzword, which cannot be not mentioned in any kind of a speech today. If you look on the technological development, and one example, Vienna Economic Forum is celebrating 20 years. Vienna Insurance Group is celebrating this year 200 years of existence. Does not mean that we make the business as we did it 200 years ago, but still it means that some of our original companies in Austria are still organized in a very, very traditional way, maybe also with not state-of-the-art IT systems, as there is a legacy in IT with all the data in it. If we look to Central Eastern Europe, principally younger IT systems, less structured of the companies. All this allows a higher flexibility, adaptability to incorporate new technology and quicker see effects where new technology can increase productivity and give a competitive advantage to these companies. We also have realized a much higher affinity of people in Central Eastern Europe to technological development. One of the hypotheses is that specifically the middle to maybe even older aged employees had much more also a technical basis education than you see it in other countries. Therefore, a higher affinity on how to deal with technique and how to incorporate technique, which again is very different to many countries in the West and in the Eurozone, where people do not have this affinity, are afraid of it, and are not supporting this development. Also here maybe one topic which is important if again you look to Western Europe, even though some of our countries in the region are already part of the European Union, but I think there is less speed in the regulatory mission which Western Europe has. And before there is a technological invention, first of all, we need a regulation how to limit it. Different way in the Anglo-Saxon area. Let's push the technological development, and afterwards let's look what we have to control. What is good or bad, I think this is now not the topic, but I feel also here in Central Eastern Europe that this kind of very, very strict regulatory elements in the beginning of innovation, just mentioning the topics of data protection, also here gives us an advantage in the region to apply this. As an example, in our group, VIG, we do not have a centralized laboratory about the future of insurance and the future application. We have more than 50 laboratories. Each and every of our insurance company is said to be a laboratory for digital development. We make co-financing of projects of our local companies for new technology. But we believe that in the end, the ability, the affinity, and the willingness to try new things, having not these star structures maybe over decades, is allowing us to have a different speed in learning what is maybe for insurance important in the future using digitalization. Another point which I think is the difficulties ahead of us is demography. We're all having the issue of aging population. This topic is even sometimes more critical in some of our countries in Central Eastern Europe as the young people moved out of these countries, and therefore the age pyramid is even more dramatic than it is in Western countries. But the very big difference is due to the very high standard which we have in Western Europe on state pension, on state healthcare, the cost for this started to explode, and this is just the beginning of these costs. These costs will develop exponentiality and will have problems for financing of state budgets, and will become to many conflicts within these societies. Just mentioning, imagine the protests in France half a year ago, which in my opinion is really ridiculous. Every normal person understands that there is a higher level of life expectancy, which is a very positive message. Therefore, there need be a certain adaptation to the retirement age, and the French people discussed 1 year of longer working time before going to pension, and people went on the street and were burning down some of the streets with huge damages which were close to 1 billion only because of a topic of increasing of 1 year. How can these societies be resilient, robust to further volatilities which are ahead of us? We will hope, and I think for the demography, and here there is an interconnection also to salary increases and indexation. I think very important for us in the region is to get people who have left the country some years ago to make our countries here in the region again attractive so that people are willing to come back. I do believe, I cannot prove it with official figures, there was a first impetus out of the COVID time and the lockdown where many of our people went home from Central Eastern Europe, and to my knowledge, quite a sizable percentage of people working classically in Western Europe stayed in the home country, realizing that opportunities, living standard, and possibility of making career and earning money has changed maybe to the time when there was here. And coming back to the exploding costs of pension and healthcare, we have already a very high tax regime in Western Europe with very limited options to use tax increases to finance this. Also here, differently in Central Eastern Europe, very low income taxes, very low tax environment. So if it would be needed, there would be even potential to find financeable elements here, not so limited like in Western Europe. One topic about national politics. I think national politics, and please excuse me for diplomats and politics here, have been already very volatile the last decades. A topic which needs to be learned by Western Europe. I think in Austria we had the big coalition, 20 to 30 years, stable, predictable politics. Also this has come to the Western Europe. Many more different parties, many more difficult coalition discussions, not a party which has been dominant than maybe in the past. We are used to this here in the region. We can deal with it. We know somehow what to expect. Must be learned by Germans, French, and Austrians. And there we come to the most important element, which I think should make us self-confident going to the bridge to Western Europe. We have in Central Eastern Europe robust, resilient societies. We had different 30 years than maybe Germany had the last 50 years. People have learned to deal much more with the unexpected, to deal much more with changes, and how to adapt to a change, how to find the best thing in this change, which disability, I think, is underdeveloped in the Western world, and this will be a key qualification for a positive, forward-looking, active environment. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Höfinger. Actually, you are based in the region, but also if you see only the architecture of our cities, Vienna is always present in the region. It is everywhere, so I was also right. So now we come to Dr. Petko NIKOLOV, who is the Minister of Economy and Industry of Bulgaria. It is the last of the statements before the panel.
Уважаема госпожо министър RIZVANOLLI, Ваши превъзходителства, уважаеми дами и господа, уважаеми господин БРИКС, уважаема госпожо Кирчева. За мен е висока чест и удоволствие да участвам в поредното издание на Виенският икономически форум, на което нашата столица София е домакин сега. Несъмнено нашата страна затвърди и продължава да затвърждава ролята си на активен участник в регионалното сътрудничество и позициите си на ключов фактор за стабилността и сигурността в нашия регион. Източна Европа предлага, както знаем, редица възможности за икономически растеж и за мен няма никакво съмнение, че България ще бъде в основата на развитието на региона. Трябва да отбележим, за съжаление, че пандемията от COVID и военните конфликти напоследък показаха, че Европейския съюз е прекалено зависим от доставки на суровини, стоки, услуги, бих казал, от трети страни. В този контекст увеличаването на европейската автономност е от съществено значение за икономическата и финансовата стабилност, като бих казал, че други важни и съществени за стабилността фактори са бързата адаптация към динамично променящата се среда и най-вече гарантирането на една стабилна регионална устойчивост и свързаност. Безспорно всяка страна трябва да положи усилия за осигуряването на европейската автономност. И в тази връзка нашата страна, България, подчертава важната роля на ефективната индустриална политика на Съюза, която да е в състояние да стимулира важни конкурентни производства, за да укрепи от една страна това вече, което казахме, индустриалната база на Европа, и от друга страна да осигурят стратегически и важни вериги за доставки. В този контекст ясно трябва да подчертаем, че целта е да се намали зависимостта на Европейския съюз от трети страни, от енергия, суровини, оборудване, важни ключови технологии, полупроводници, дигитални продукти, храни, разбира се, много важно, и много други, както и да се създаде възможност за диверсифициране на пазарите, от които Европейският съюз реализира доставки. По мое мнение, за преодоляване на трудностите в тази насока е необходимо да се увеличи производственият капацитет по веригите на стойността, както и да се модернизират производствените технологии. Голямо значение в тези процеси имат инвестициите в човешкият капитал. Човешкият капитал, който е в основата на индустриалният успех, нещо, което винаги е било подчертавано, както и, разбира се, инвестициите в инфраструктура, в зелена свързаност, в индустриалните зони, които са един, бих казал, важен и ключов аспект на региона. Говорейки за регионалната свързаност, важно е да отбележим, че липсата на инфраструктурни връзки и затруднената търговия и стокообмен са в резултат на незавършения процес на интеграцията на страните от Западните Балкани в Европейския съюз. От друга страна, отчитам, че влизайки с морските си и въздушни граници, България и Румъния станаха част от шенгенското пространство. Но пълната ни интеграция в шенгенското пространство, без съмнение трябва да подчертаем, ще допринесе за по-ефективна регионална, транспортна, енергийна и дигитална свързаност. Пълното ни присъединяване към шенгенското пространство ще увеличи икономическата сигурност и на всички страни в региона. Трябва да е ясно, че всяко отлагане на това пълноправно членство в Шенген ще е причина, вероятно, и за по-големи пропуснати ползи, както за българската и румънската страна, така също и за икономиките в региона. Според различни изследвания и доклади, общият ефект от пълното присъединяване на нашата страна към шенгенското пространство се оценява около и над 1 милиард лева годишно. Така че с всяка година на забавяне на този процес, бизнесът, опериращ у нас и в региона, и гражданите губят тези средства. От друга страна, трябва да подчертаем, че нашата страна подкрепя присъединяването към Европейския съюз на всички страни от региона на Западните Балкани, въз основа, разбира се, на собствените им усилия и заслуги в изпълнението на установените критерии за подобно членство. Също така ние насърчаваме развитието на съвместни инициативи, които биха създали повече възможности за гражданите и бизнеса в региона. Уважаеми дами и господа, безспорно укрепването и разширяването на регионалната транспортна и енергийна свързаност е от много важно и ключово значение за справяне с прекъснатите вериги на доставки и стоки, както и енергийни ресурси. Ето защо страните от региона трябва да реагираме бързо на това предизвикателство, чрез реализация на повече проекти на регионална свързаност и сътрудничество в енергетика, транспорт, цифрова свързаност и много други, разбира се. Ето защо в заключение бих искал да добавя, че инициативата Виенски икономически форум е безспорен пример за успешно регионално сътрудничество. Аз лично вярвам, че реализацията на съвместните инициативи, за които говорихме всички досега, и повишаването на регионалната свързаност ще допринесат за икономическото развитие не само на нашия район, но и на цяла Европа. Пожелавам успех на всички участници във форума. Благодаря за вниманието.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Now we have to excuse Dr. NIKOLOV and Dr. RIZVANOLLI, Minister NIKOLOV and Minister RIZVANOLLI. They will have a meeting, so they are starting actually what we are here about, the bridges, building bridges. Thank you very much. And I would like to invite for the first panel also Mrs. Teodora Matei and Mr. Dimitar Nedialkov, if they are here to join us here on the panel. Yes?
He's here.
Yeah. Okay. Here there is some time. Now we have the first panel here of our conversation, of our meeting here, and now the question is very simple. What can we do to build these bridges? And now I give the floor to Mr. Björn Gabriel, who is a head of representation in North Macedonia of the European Investment Bank. Please. Yeah, from here.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. Dear Ambassadors KIRTCHEVA and BRIX, dear ministers, distinguished guests, thank you very much for the opportunity to be here today. For two reasons, actually. On the personal level, it evokes very happy memories being here in Bojana residence. It reminds me of the early days of my career when I worked with Dr. Busek in his role as Stability Pact coordinator for Southeastern Europe, and we had many good meetings here. But more importantly, because the topic building economic bridges stands at the very heart of the mission of the European Investment Bank, and so thanks again on behalf of the institution for having us. I will maybe not go too much into the background of EIB and what we do, etc. Maybe worthwhile mentioning again that we were actually established 65 years ago as an instrument to deepen European economic integration. And during this time, we have extended significant investment capacity and technical advisory capacity to all exceeding countries. And the successful history of the various waves of EU enlargement has really demonstrated, in my view, also the power that the accession process has for convergence, and I'm sure many of you in the room here today can bear witness to that. We're talking about bridges, so we ultimately talk about gaps. I mean, if you look at the average GDP per capita compared Western Balkans to EU, the Western Balkans GDP per capita stands around at 38% of the average GDP of the European Union. So that's a significant gap, obviously, that we all want to see addressed. Lots needs to be done. we tried to provide and extend our support in the Western Balkans over the last 10 years, investing 10 billion euro, providing technical assistance, but the job is not done yet. And maybe to spark the discussion a little bit, I would like to draw the attention to a new instrument, and Ms. Gabriel has already alluded to it, which is the EU Growth Plan, that could be perceived or could help to accelerate closing this gap. I'm not sure how familiar you are with the instrument. The instrument has three main features and essentially objectives. So the first one is to incentivize structural reforms in investments in the Western Balkans. And the instrument tries to do that by requiring bilaterally agreed reform agendas between the EU and the Western Balkans to be met through bespoke indicators. And on that basis, the countries will then be able to access an additional 3 billion euro of national budget support, but also 3 billion euro of investment and TA grants for key economic projects in the region. Secondly, and I personally think that is the real step change and game changer, is that the plan offers very concrete initiatives to make the common regional market and to make the gradual integration with the EU single market a reality. It will bring down the cost of trade. It will bring down the cost of financial transactions. Just two examples. The Western Balkan countries will, for example, have the possibility to join the so-called Green Lane initiatives, which is estimated to save approximately 20 years of waiting time of goods at the borders with the EU. And at the same time, the countries will be in a position to join the single European payment area, which will save around 5 to 6% of financial transaction costs with the EU. So again, here, I think we see a real change from being fully member of the EU single market and having the possibility to gradually come closer to it. Thirdly, and that is also an important feature, is that the countries can only benefit from all of this if they prove to foster good neighbor relations. I mean, all of you working on Southeastern Europe and the region for a long time, you know that too often disputes over history, identity, etc. have provided de facto building blocks, roadblocks on the road to accession, and the plan would like to do away with that. So I think this new growth plan shows a collective determination to ensure convergence of the region. I mean, we were also talking about responsibilities. So I think it's the collective responsibility of all of us to try and help and make it work. And if you listen to recent statements of Western Balkan leaders, you can also see that the plan is appreciated because it no longer offers this you either in or out perspective, but it offers a step-by-step approachment and integration with the EU single market, something that's definitely worth bearing in mind. So at the EIB, we will obviously do our utmost to support everybody involved and also all of you in the room in building those bridges. We have also stepped up our technical advisory capacity through the JASPERS program, which will help governments and the public sector prepare policies under the reform agenda, but also investment program and specific projects, and we hope to see these come into fruition soon. So this is to say, at the EIB, we share the desire to expedite the region's accession to the EU, and we are definitely determined to intensify all our technical and financial support work, obviously to ensure a sustainable future for the people in the Western Balkans and to advance reforms for socio-economic development. So the growth plan for me was one of the contributions now into the discussion, and it would be interesting maybe also to hear from others whether they see the gradual integration into the EU single market as a real step change in taking things forward and building the bridges. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gabriel. Now we go to Dr. Herbert Stepic, who is a financial consultant, former CEO of Raiffeisen Bank and one of the founders of the Vienna Economic Forum. Please, Dr. Stepic.
Does it work?
Yes.
Yes, it does. I was asked in 5 minutes to draw bullet points in order to fuel the discussion. What can you say in 5 minutes? Still, I give it a trial. We were founded to bridge the transition for Central and Eastern economies into the Western free enterprise system. That was not a given. When talking to the elderly part of Central and Eastern European countries, they still think, is that worth it? What I want to say is when it happened, a good part of the elderly population was very much afraid what was ahead of them, and they are still believing that the decision might not have been the right one. This is true what I tell you. So the future is the young part of the region. This is the future. If we don't fuel them, if we don't advocate for them, if we don't promote them, we all never do it. If I say we, Austria, same demographic situation, few children, elderly population, outdated political system. What Stepping is saying? Outdated political system? For goodness sake, what is this guy talking about? What I'm talking about is the people who are ruling us. We will be never able to advance if we do not have people leading our states, our societies, our economies with values, well educated, and positive attitude for the society. Not corrupt, not oriented to their own pockets, oriented for the society. Now, this is a lengthy process. We are talking about 30 years now. Some say, there are a few countries that have made it. Slovenia, Slovakia, Czech Republic, the Baltics, they have fairly decisively integrated into the West, both political and in the economic sense. But what is with the rest? Ladies and gentlemen, to transfer from one system to another system is a bloody exercise. Oh my God. Very difficult, very time-consuming. Specifically when we are talking about the democratic system. Now, what shall I tell you in 5 minutes? I think the task of this organization is the same, but we have to adopt the scope of work. Why? Due to the fact that the problems are partly different already now, as in the beginning, and will change constantly. The economy is becoming increasingly intangible, defined by automation and digitalization. Now, on one side, Central and Eastern European economies have the disadvantage that they have been far away from innovation for a very long time. On the other side, you have a huge advantage because you have more engineers like doctors, right? You are educating your people, and please continue to do so, more technically than in science. We need many more technicians in the future than scientists. I hope I will not be stoned after my speech. And that is exactly the advantage that you have. Countries like Bulgaria, for instance, have splendid technical education in mathematics and God knows what. This is what we in Austria, greatly also in Germany, don't have. any longer. We had it, but we have lost it over time. So this is an advantage and a disadvantage. Where do I see the biggest risk? I have to speed on because my 5 minutes are becoming 10 minutes, which is always a mistake. Politics again. Politics. That's the main thing. Many of the countries have advanced and they're able to quickly advance because they had simply the right politicians. To vote, I don't know how many times in 2 years, is a problem. To talk about immigration for 15 years in Europe without solution is a problem. It is the decisive factor for each election, and we do not advance, there is no solution. So, you have a situation where we all intellectually know where the path should go, where the future lies, but it's very stony, very stony. If I see the enormous work within the EU, the fact that we get red tape everywhere, it is becoming increasingly an organization of, how should I call that? Looking for the neighbor around his shoulder, what he does everything right, looking to the right neighbor, do you do everything right? Yes, in other words, we need a commission, a subcommission, and a triple commission, and then we are starting to control and sub-control and over-control, and this is what we're doing. Am I against the European Union? No! It's the only future that we have. But we have to do it much better, to advance into a common Europe. I have no time to talk about the next 25 years in 5 minutes, and I don't want to tell you many more things I have prepared for you, simply because I believe I have told you the most important things. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Stepic. It was also the way you told us the most important things. We are convinced. Mr. Kalin Peshov is the chairman of the board of GBS, also member of the board of the Vienna Economic Forum, please.
Thank you very much, dear Ambassador KIRTCHEVA, Your Excellencies, dear member of the board of directors, and dear guests. It's hard to speak after my neighbor, Dr. Stepic. I'll try also to stay in the 5 minutes, just from the technological point of view of Eastern Europe and the Balkans, to remind that the computer was found by a Bulgarian. So we are there, but being lost a little bit for 30 years. We'll come back. So speaking about bridges, we're coming from the construction area. You know, the bridges could be couple of different types in the construction. They can be bridges in the columns, rope-stated bridges, and a couple of more. But there are not 100 types of bridges. It's pretty much the same in life. In life, we have a couple of bridges between the nations, between the countries, and between the people. They could be based on sport, based on culture, based on economic, what we are talking today. Could be based on the religion as well, but it's doubt where is the bridges always. It's more complicated. So coming at that point, there are only a couple of ways we can bridge the people and the countries in the area, in Europe, or the whole world. So bridges, starting from sport, we have this tradition. The Greeks, they invent Olympic Games more than 600 years before Christ in a wonderful and romantic place of Delphi and Corinth Peninsula. They organized it and they allowed all the people around to come and play together. We have still until today many songs in the Balkans who are pretty much the same, just having different text and different language, but in general they are the same. So it is there. And speaking about economical bridges, which is the main point today, I can say my experience and what we can contribute to those bridges. Like 17 years ago, we built as a company 2 hospitals in North Macedonia. At that time, it was just Macedonia, it doesn't matter. So 14 years ago, we built a symbolic building in Kosovo, the Palace of Justice. Also very nice and beautiful place. For the last 5 years, our contract with Turkey for buying different materials and contracting some work is exceeding 100 million euros. Just like this, it just happened because they have great technology, great people. Even today, with all the challenging of human resources and people working, we are having a lot of people from Albania, for example, working in our company in the construction sector. So the bridges are there, and economy is bringing its value, and everyone from us can bring a contribution to that. Yesterday I promised to Ambassador KIRTCHEVA not to speak about Schengen, so I will not do it. But thank you also to Her Excellency Mariya GABRIEL. She said great words, and there is nothing to add. But yeah, it's very important. I'll keep my promise. Also, Ambassador KIRTCHEVA says something very nice yesterday about the 3 things she's always in favor. It's work, work, and work. I like it very much. There is a great person I know says a lot that we need to do the things we have to do, not the things we like to do. I strongly disagree with that because sometimes we have to do the things we like to do, and that makes the humans different from the machines. But anyway, put the 2 things together, making the things we have to do and work, 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 I think can bring the economical bridges in favor of making the people, nations, and everybody else close together. Thank you.
Thank you very much. You can always spot the engineer, always spot on. Thank you very much for this contribution, and also thank you very much for mentioning Schengen by not mentioning it, which is an art in diplomacy. And now Theodora Matei is the Deputy Chairman of Invest Moldova Agency.
Thank you. I felt slightly uncomfortable when joining this panel, being the youngest one. However, after the comment left by one of the founders of this forum, I feel much better. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the entire Invest Moldova team, I would like to thank you for the invite and for giving us the opportunity to share how Moldova tries to build bridges in these difficult times by taking the courage to be one step ahead closer to Europe. It's not a surprise, the war happening on our neighbor's territory, and this gives us more responsibility as a nation to protect our people, our guests, partners, and of course our investors. And we do this by thinking big and taking small confident steps. In June 2022, Moldova was officially granted as candidate status of European Union, and we took as a target to be part of it by 2030. And at Invest Moldova, we thrive to build partnerships and agreements that will benefit international investments in the Republic of Moldova, but of course incentivize local businesses to grow abroad. The recent memorandum that we are very proud of is the one signed between Invest Moldova and Invest Bulgaria Agency. And we are very proud of that. And we see the flourish happening also in the international investment world. I would like to, speaking of investments, I would like to share Doveria Holding company that is a Bulgarian company and invested in financial sector, transforming Moldinkom Bank, the bank that I keep my money in, that I trust my money in, as the second largest bank in Moldova. I also want to mention what we do, small and confident. We build free European economic zones that gives tax benefits to companies working there. Speaking about numbers, we do provide 50% priority of tax benefits for profits from goods and services provided within that area. We also build IT parks, especially the main IT park that give the benefit of 7% tax only to all IT companies, and we don't stop here. We would very much like to build future through communication, through partnerships. So please don't be shy, come talk to me, and let's build a healthy growth together. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mrs. Matei. This is how it works with investment. One have to be short, and there it comes, and clear. Mr. Dimitar Nedyalkov is a Deputy Minister of Transportation and Communication in Bulgaria, please.
Thank you. Mrs. KIRTCHEVA is not here, but distinguished guests, the ambassadors,
sure, come.
Friends, let's say, thank you very much for having us here. Thank you once again for the opportunity to speak to you regarding the role that the modernization of transport infrastructure plays for the economic growth and the social progress in Europe. We are at the important turning point in the world economy development marked by a completely new set of challenges. The Russian military aggression against Ukraine has not only disrupted political stability, but will also have a long-term negative effect on the functioning of the economic sector in the European Union. From transport perspective, it is important to coordinate infrastructure development on a regional, European and European level. The relatively central position of the Bulgaria and on the Balkan Peninsula determines the need for simultaneous modernization on both the east-west and the north-south transport axes crossing our territory. Bulgaria is engaged in improving transport connectivity with neighboring countries, which includes improving border crossing, harmonizing technical standards, and promoting interoperability for seamless movement across border and promoting regional integration. We are fully committed to the realization of the construction of a new bridge connecting Bulgaria and Romania in the region of Ruse and Giurgiu, both cities on the both sides of the Danube. And the development of a multimodal corridor on the north-south axis between Greece, Bulgaria, and Romania. Discussing the transport connectivity, I would like to highlight the importance of corridor number 8, which is a key link among the east-west axis, providing an opportunity for effective intermodal connectivity between the Black Sea and the Adriatic Sea. Bulgaria is interested in the finalization of the construction of the transport infrastructure along the corridor number 8 in its part between Republic of Bulgaria and the Republic of North Macedonia and Albania. The completion of Corridor 8 will create political and economical prerequisites for commercial and industrial prosperity and market-oriented development of the countries of the region, while contributing to better connectivity between the EU and the countries of the Western Balkans. Given the current growing importance of the topics of security and military mobility, the implementation of all components of Transport Corridor number 8 is of a strategic importance in our cohesion as allies of NATO. Last but not least, I would like to note also the growing importance of the middle corridor and the opportunities it's open up for the development of the whole region. In conclusion, I would like to emphasize that the new geopolitical situation presents new challenges and strategic opportunities and gives new meaning to the cooperation in the field of infrastructure and infrastructure projects. Thank you very much for your attention and success.
Thank you very much. Before we open a very short but very inspiring discussion, I would start by asking the panel one hypothetical question. Imagine you have a magic wand, just like Harry Potter, and you can eliminate one problem for economic cooperation on the Balkans, or in the region, sorry again, saying this politically incorrect word. You can eliminate one of the problems for economic cooperation. We are greeting Prime Minister Kurti now. Mr. Albin Kurti, Prime Minister of Albania. So what this single problem would be, Mr. Gabriel? One single problem. Let me answer. Let us try with one word, one single problem, if you can eliminate it.
Public sector capacity in designing and implementing public sector projects.
Mr. Stepic, what did we, if you can?
I mean, the main thing when talking to international investors and trade is what is the most important thing for you? Then the answer is a functional legal system and political stability. How I can introduce that? The latter, I don't know. The first one, I think, needs goodwill and cooperation with the EU authorities to reach that. I think that's the major point.
Thank you, Mr. Peshov. What did it be for you?
Schengen, you say one word.
Okay, that's fine. Mrs. Matei?
I would put miscommunication, because sometimes we do lack this part, which is a very important side when it comes to building strong long-term relationships.
That's also fine. Mr. Nedyalkov, what would it be for you?
I think for me, it's important because I'm coming from Russia. It's a border city between Romania and Bulgaria. I would solve the small discrepancies between the neighboring countries so that we can make the connectivity and build bridges easier.
Are there other opinions or somebody who would say something and add to that? Now, it's your turn. Yeah. I think all our audiences share one and the same problem. In the beginning, nobody dares to speak, then we cannot stop the discussion. So this is a common feature of the region. Somebody? Somebody? Then the easiest way is to go to Mr. Stepic. The easiest way to continue this discussion is to go to Mr. Stepic and to ask him, how exactly can you see an ideal vision of what you ask for change in the region? Where should it come from? From outside, so from a goodwill of the EU, or from inside, from a will of our societies to change?
I mean, changes can only come from inside, frankly speaking. You cannot adopt changes from outside. I mean, you might get influence. You might have a certain learning process or exercise. But a society has to change from the inside. My father took part in more or less the conflict between the socialists and the then living conservatives in 1928, when they shot themselves. Austria, I'm talking about Austria. And now we believe we can change more than half of Europe, and the system that was prevailing for 50 or 60 years within a snap. It's not possible. I mean, it has to grow. I think we have to promote, you have to promote as a society, the goodwillers in a society. Young people, motivated young people, journalists who risk their lives when they are reporting about deadly issues. A society has to develop values, and values will create a good society. This is how it goes. And therefore, I believe it cannot come from outside. The Holy Ghost comes from the top and says, now we are all good and we love each other and kiss each other. No, this doesn't work. It has to grow, and it takes time, and it is a very, very bloody exercise. Sorry, my French, a very bloody exercise.
Well, Mr. Gabriel, what is your impression? Do countries, do businesses from the region have an interest to cooperate between each other, or the only interest they have is to look to the West and look for solutions and help there?
Well, I guess it's a bit of both. If you look at the foreign direct investment share of EU in the Western Balkans, and if you look at the trade balance between the Western Balkans and the EU, it's significant, of course, and that shows that the orientation towards the EU is there, but it's there, obviously, for the reason of doing business. I think within the region, I would even argue that business relations are decoupled from the political relations. So yes, the countries look at their neighbors, they look at neighboring markets, absolutely, to cooperate and to work and to make investments. But of course the situation, sometimes for political reasons, sometimes for legal reasons or tax regimes in place, etc., doesn't make it very favorable. So it's both. The orientation towards the EU is there, but there's a strong willingness that I perceive of countries and businesses to work with each other in the region. We use the word region a bit too often, but yeah, that's the case.
Yeah, Mr. Stepic, you can add some.
Sorry, I don't want to capture the floor, but still I think trade relations are a very important issue. Generally speaking, this is one of the major issues that Central Southeastern Europe is suffering from historically, and what the size of the single economies are concerned. First of all, there is a strong trade dependence, as just mentioned, very much depending on Germany. So Germany is the driving motor of European business, generally speaking. I make it much easier. So if Germany runs slow, all the neighboring countries are also running somewhat slower. The second thing is that you have a situation where investments in small economies are per se difficult, as large groups, large concerns say, why should I invest in a country with 3 million people if I could invest in a country of 40 million people? Therefore, the combination, the foundation of trade areas, so cooperation is the name of the game in Europe at the whole, and in Central Southeastern Europe specifically, because the markets are very small. Without cooperation, you will not succeed. You need strong cooperation. Relations, infrastructure, name of the game. I mean, that you cannot pass the Danube for so and so many years. The lorries have to wait 3 days before they can pass. Incredible in 2024, still. So it's easy issues. That means relatively quick to solve issues, and much more difficult, I'm stopping now at the moment, and much more difficult issues. Shall Eastern European economies reorientate themselves to China instead of Germany?
Thank you very much. I think we will continue this discussion after the break, but before that, Ambassador KIRTCHEVA has a surprise announcement, which is not included in the program.
The surprises are kind of Vienna Economic Forum together. Before coming to my surprise, allow me, on behalf of all of us, to say welcome to the Prime Minister of Kosovo, Mr. Albin Kurti, who is the very good patron of Vienna Economic Forum. Welcome, Prime Minister. And I would like to ask Mariya GABRIEL to come here because the surprise is something for you. Ladies and gentlemen, Vienna Economic Forum is proud, and I'm really very pleased to give to Mariya GABRIEL this award presented to her for her significant role and valuable contribution to the regional cooperation and the common understanding on national and international level. As Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Bulgaria, take this and promise to work together for the future.
Thank you.
And this is the real surprise. Bulgarian sculpture produced something special for Vienna Economic Forum Sofia meeting 24. It's heavy. It's heavy. Thank you.
Well, that was not expected at all, a real surprise, but thank you very much. And yes, I will continue to have the lion in my heart. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Now I announce a break. We will see each other at 11:30. Well, in regional terms, 11:31. Thank you. Oh, goed, je hebt gezegd.
Vienna Economic Forum was founded in 2004 with the aim to promote investment opportunities in the countries from the Adriatic to the Black Sea. This aim is a part of the vision to follow a strategy to contribute to push the economic cooperation between the countries